just gonna make a real quick, very simple quest system. I'm just gonna place a small ground first, so we have something to stand on, I suppose. And I don't want it blinding. Let's choose like a darker color. There we go. So we need a few different things. Quest systems aren't simple. Even simple quest systems aren't simple. So we're gonna have a canvas, and we're gonna have, let's put a panel, and we don't need a raycast target, and let's just take it over to the side, say about there. I'm going to add a vertical layout group to it and put it to invisible. So now if I make an object, and I'll just do text, and we tell the layout group to control the width, and this guy can auto size. So this will be like some quest thing. Put some words in it. Okay, thank you. I want this to be flexible size, but I don't want it to go huge. And I'm going to stick it right in the middle, like that. It's got some room to scale if need be. And if we have two of them, we don't want them separating like that. No, we don't want to control the height. We don't want to expand the height. That's the thing I want to change. That guy, his height will say be 50. Because now we should have, yeah. Alright, so now we have him. He's like that. We'll even call this quest. And we're going to prefab that object like that, and then I'm going to delete it. So what am I going to do? We're going to add an FSM to this panel. Doesn't actually have to be on this panel, be different places, but get owner. So stage one is we need a place to store these quests. Okay, so that's like stage one. Let's go back over to our world here. So we're going to have a player, and he's just going to be a capsule, nothing special about him. And we're going to have, we'll have, say, some sort of item we're going to pick up. We'll tag it. It really doesn't matter. Call it a slot. It is a slot. So when this guy interacts with him, we're going to pick that thing up, and he's going to go in to something. So that means we have, I'm going to put an arrayless proxy. If you don't have arrayless proxies, make sure to go over to your ecosystem and get array, because it's just freaking awesome. So let's call this, I'm just going to call it events. This is on our player. So I am now going to put an FSM, and let's say, how do we want to do this? We want, oh yeah, let's hold on to that for a minute. So okay, let's make an empty, and this is actually going to be our quest. Our quest is going to be to pick up, I don't know, 3 cubes. So that means this thing is going to need a state, and it's going to need a counter, and so let's just call it event, I suppose. Kind of pretty generic. So when event happens, we're going to int add to our count. We're going to add 1, and we're going to build string and we're going to say the count cubes are collected, and that can be our string. Don't add that to the end. And then we're going to set text on the, we use a Text Mesh Pro. Make sure if you're using Text Mesh Pro to use the UGI actions. So we know we have to have a Text Mesh Pro object. Oh, not every frame. That needs to be string. So we need an object. So very simply put is this guy's going to have a quest variable, and let's come down here actually, and let's do is null. So we're going to have our quest indicator, a new variable, and if it's null, create it. If it's not null, we're just going to use it. Use it, create it. So if we use it, then we're going to use our quest indicator, and we'll set the string to it. If we have to create it though, then we're going to create object of type our quest, and the parent is going to be our global, what do we call that thing? Quest? Do we call it quest something? Ah, quest holder. There we go. Perfect. So this will be our quest indicator. Now because we're doing some UI stuff, unless you have a specialized action, you're also going to want to set scale to the object, just the way creating things in UI works. So the quest indicator, we're just going to go make sure it is 1. Alright, and then we'll finish and go up into state 4. Right, and then it'll set that text. So there we go. Now we have that. Now we could have our limit, right? Such as, where would we want to put that? Let's put it up here. Let's do an int compare. We'll put it above the string but below the add. So if this is at R, we'll say 3. If it's equal, we are complete. If it's greater, we can still be complete. If it's less, then nothing. We're not going to do anything. So it'll just continue on down the line. So if it's complete, then let's just set this guy, and let's just say quest complete. And then we could continue on and do things on that. Alright, so we're probably thinking, like, how do we get this event to this quest? Right? So what we need to do in the start is we're going to get owner, and I'm just going to say self, and then I want to get parent, and we'll call that parent. Array list add, and we're going to add ourselves to the parents list, which is called events, which is going to take type game object, which is ourself. So we're adding ourselves to this guy. Right. So now that we've added ourselves, we can get this event. Right. So, and we could put data into that to separate all the quests. For example, let's not have this one here. Let's say get event properties, right? And this could be, I don't know, this could be an item, or this could be a quest. And maybe it's string, and this will be, we'll call it quest name, and string compare. So if quest name is equal to, you know, we'll say cubes. If it's equal, then we're gonna continue on. This is the proper quest. If it's not equal, then nothing. We're just gonna sit there and do nothing. I don't know if that's necessarily the best approach. I mean, it'll work, but you could also do it by item pickup too. That, which actually might almost be a better option. Item. That's type game object. So the picked up item. But I mean, that could change, because if it's not an item, maybe it's a destination quest, then a string might be better then. Right, so quest name, let's change that to game object type, so we can come back over here and compare. And this is just so that we can, it more or less becomes what would be the word for that? Simpler to extend the system. So our quest item, and we're comparing it to picked up item. And continue. So we need to know what our quest item is. So I'm going to put that in inspector so we can mark it there, because we haven't made it yet. Alright, so that is our quest. And I'm just going to child in there. So you could now create the quest and then child it to the player. Kind of like you could have it over here on a cube, player steps on it, they've gotten the quest, whatever. There's different ways we can approach this. So we need to create this item. We'll call this quest cube. And I'm just going to prefab him. And then I'm going to go into our quest, because we have our quest item, because now I can say that, yeah, we're using that item. So when the player is going to get an item, we can say new item. So, and this could literally be anything, positions or anything. But we're going to say new item. So we're going to get event properties, type, let's just call it item, game object, new item, and we could add this item to a list, right? So forth. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of gloss over that real quick, and we're going to set event properties, and we're going to send event to game objects in the array list. So this particular cube, this quest is looking for an event, and it's got an item. Right, so all the quests would have that same kind of entry point. So here we have, it's kind of more or less the same. So we're going to set item with this new item, which I don't think I technically have to do this because it's already set, because it's all happening in the same frame. It's like the all same string of logic, but I'm going to do it anyways. And we're going to set event to these objects. Right, so up in here you would actually probably be adding this into an inventory system at this stage, like right there. You'd branch off. This could be extended. You could have new item, new position, new area, and they could kind of all follow the same thing, and then they all fire the same event down. So it's more or less a system. So that means this cube is going to have a little bit of an FSM, and all he's going to do is get self, or get owner, and set event properties. We'll need that. Item, type game object, put ourself in there, and send event. So one of the other things we're going to need is we're going to need a trigger event. So when we mark trigger with, say, the player, we're going to send an event. And go, and this is the player object, and that's actually when we will set the event and send the event. So over here we're get owner, over here we're, oh wait, sorry, no, go, okay, at least you go in the last one, there we go, and we're going to set game object to the player object, and I think we called it new item. FSS name, I forget the name, I think I just called it FSM anyways. And then it can actually destroy self. Alright, so this guy, yeah, okay, cool. So we should now be able to see well, let's put the camera, I guess the camera doesn't matter, we can see it through here. My system is thinking. Alright, so if I hit, oh, I need to take my thing as player, or that's just not going to work. And that also means I need a rigid body or a character controller, either or. I'm just going to go with a rigid body and go kinetic. Right, so we've hit the cube and the cube's disappeared. It's gone, right? So let's see. So our quest system picked up the event. And it did not recognize the type. Request item to the item picked up. That might be because it's destroying itself maybe too quick. So let's just give that a slight modification. Now, I guess I could just put a delay in here. I was going to do a next frame event. Whatever, same thing. Alright, so before we forget this stuff, let's put the rigid body on so we're not doing that every time. Alright, so now let's see what he said. No, he does not like that compare. Quest cube. Okay, let's just see what this guy is doing. Let's not destroy this next cube. Sees that, and he sees that. Those are not the same objects. Alright, well then, let's adjust that then. So we're going to get this item. You know what? I suppose this cube actually could have an FSM. Like, it has an FSM. This thing could have variables in it. These variables could be the string. We'll call it the quest. Alright, and we can call this one, say, cubes. That'll work. Might be easier to separate and differentiate these things. So let's not do the compare. Instead, let's do a get FSM string from this quest cube. Quest string. And that needs to be this picked up item. And then string compare. So kind of like how I originally had it, I guess. So if it is, I think we call it cubes, continue, and that's it. Don't eat things off the floor. Right, so now we have 1 cubes collected. We have 2 cubes collected. We have quest has been completed. Right, and the reason why I do it this way. Okay, so for example, this is kind of the beauty part. Oh, I've already prefabbed this thing, didn't I? Oh no, that's that. Okay, so let's do call some quest tasks. Alright, so let's say we have big cube and he's a trigger, and we'll mark it, we'll make him red. So if we enter this trigger, right? Trigger enter with player. We'll just do that same kind of format. Player object. Let's create object. Create our quest tasks under the player object. And destroy self. Just like that. The quest tasks, let's just double check. So we're sitting here in this kind of spot, and then it runs through and does all this fun stuff. I am actually going to, I want that to build. So if we create it, we scale it. Let's build this right at the start. Set scale, and then let's set the text, the task, the quest, to collect 3 cubes, and then we'll see it right at the start. Right. All right. So now, okay, we come out of there. Player doesn't have it. And then, you know, as an added bonus, let's hide those. You can always spawn those randomly. You know what? Let's do this. Quest objects. There. Now we can just activate that. Put it over here and put it above the destroy. Cool, right? And there's that. So let's see how this one looks so far. So we go there. We've got our collect 3 cubes. There's 1, 2, 3. Quest complete, and then whatever X logic there. Okay, so cool, but not quite done yet. So we have this quest task. So I'm actually going to unprefab that and go back in it and say, okay, we have this starting point of our quest, right? How do we want to do this? So here we have new item. Okay, so let's say, you know what? Let's do this. Point of interest. Point of interest, and we can get an event properties. Same idea, only let's call this let's just call it a point of interest as well. String, point of interest string, and then let's essentially do the same thing. Right, now we could kind of tackle those all in together. There's ways to do that, but we'll keep it separate. So this is going to be, and we'll want to maintain the same naming convention here. And we're going to use that same event system though. We're not going to change that. Right. So now we have a point of interest, and it's a string. Okay, so what if this new one, when it gets an event, and it's going to get a POI string we'll call it quest string. We don't need to get the FSM then. Or mind you, I guess we could do the new item and have the string in there. Whatever. Big difference. So we get the quest string, and we're not going to have a count. We're not counting things. So let's just have. We don't even really need that. In fact, we don't need that whole state. Right? We'll keep the indicator, because if we've got the indicator, then we can scale it. And let's just go. Yes, these two can just go up here. Quest complete, and this one is get to blue zone. We'll call it. So let's over here. Let's get rid of some of these things that we don't need. We'll clutter everything up. Actually, I guess the quest name. Oh, it's a game object, right? Our quest we don't use. String we're not going to use, not in this situation. Alright, I think that's good. So this would be. Oh, this would be. Okay, quest string. You should not be out there. Alright, so let's say, let's just call it blue zone. Alright, and then let's just give this guy blue zone. Alright, I'll prefab him, delete him from here. So we need another cube. This will be another quest giver, only this one is not going to have those objects. It's going to create that guy. And then we need another, we'll just use these things because they're nice and simple. And this guy here can be set event properties. Blue zone. Set event. To the player. POI, player object, destroy self, we set, okay, sounds good. And you know what, let's make this thing blue if we have one. Alright, we do a blue zone. Alright, so now and the order doesn't matter, and technically they will both function, right? So we could say go to this guy, we have go to blue zone, right? And I can go grab this guy now too if I wanted to, right? Collect 3 cubes. So this guy can go here. Okay, that quest is complete. And that quest is complete. And then once those quests are complete, once it hits that phase, you know, hits this kind of phase, we've completed it, we would, you know, reward the player with whatever the case is, money or items, whatever, change zones, start a different quest, I don't know, do whatever, and then we would destroy our quest indicator because we wouldn't need it here anymore, and then we would destroy this object as well. And then, I mean, you also could have a master list of quests somewhere that's like a true or false if the quest is done like in a hash table or something. But that is probably the simplest style of quest system I think I could muster. I mean, other than just flopping a bool for something, but that's a really bad method. Because it's just really not extendable at all. Where at least this is, like, you just have these objects and these things are quests, and as long as they all feed off the same event, I mean, they could have all sorts of different phases and stuff to them, right? So when it comes down to it, as long as this event fires, all those quests will get the information, right? So you might want to alter this so that these are even, right? But this type of system could also go with, like, you could have other systems in here as well that also add themselves to the same list, right? So when this thing fires off, not only does the quest get it so that they update, you know, nearby AI or the game manager or some audio manager or whatever could also get that same event and react to it as well. So hopefully that works as a mini quest system.